Yeah, I really am excited.
All right, well, let me get started. You ready?
Go ahead.
Welcome back, everybody. Of course, this is Dr. Keith McNally, and this is the Question Guide podcast. And of course, I always want to get names right. I'm here with Laura Von LaRusso, and Laura has a she's got a gift, and we're going to talk about that gift and her impact on others today because she's now very comfortable talking with me. And so I fully appreciate that. Laura, let's go ahead and jump into that conversation. But before we do, just tell everybody who you are and let's go from there.
Oh, terrific. Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to speak with you today. It's just fabulous, so exciting for me. And yes, and working with you and speaking with you. Oh, who am I?
Who are
Well,
you?
I am there's an expression dyed in the wool. It means it's just in your heart, a spirit of yourself that is a certain way that you can never get rid of. And I'm a dyed in the wool advocate. I'm the kind of person that was just sort of born this way. I enjoy informing and empowering others. And it seems that my not only my personal life, but my professional life has always led me in that direction.
Okay.
So I have worked as an advocate and then an educator and now a communication coach because I think language is power. And I try to give people the confidence they need to speak,
Well,
to speak.
language is power, and there's lots of powerful things that we can do with our words. So you've already mentioned one word in particular, and that's an advocate. So who or what are you advocating for?
Mhm. Excellent. When you think about it, when you see this title, communication coach, it's very general, right?
Mm.
And so, who I'm really advocating for is for people or my clients that I've had the pleasure of working with. Um, I'm advocating for them to believe in themselves. That's really number one.
Okay.
Before you can even improve your presentation skills or communication skills, you have to believe in yourself. So that's the foundation. And that's what I'm really all about. I'm about advocating for people to believe in themselves in a way that helps them to deliver their message and their who they really are.
Well, I wish I had met you 10 years ago then, because I could have really used that encouragement and empowerment just to be comfortable with myself. But I think more specifically, let's talk about your backstory, because that's really going to really give us a clue as to what you're advocating for and why being a communications coach is so important at this point in your life. So can we go back a few years? Let's start from any point of the beginning story that you're comfortable talking about.
Sure. Well, I can go back most comfortably to my 20s, let's say, for example,
Okay.
because those years are so essential. Those are your really formative time when you're ready to go out into the world and have new experiences and sort of learn about yourself.
Hmm.
But my caveat was that I was born with cerebral palsy,
Okay.
and so cerebral palsy actually,
Okay.
and so that really impacted um, my self-perception, my need at that time because I was so young to sort of fit in wherever I belonged.
Right.
Right. So that leads to a lot of that terrible problem of people pleasing. So if I were in a situation where I'd meet you, Keith, and I got a sense that you had a certain preference for a certain way of interacting or speaking, I would be that way with you. And then if I met someone else, who was different in some way,
Okay.
then I would try to meet their needs. And that is exhausting, and nobody can do that. And so,
Very
like,
exhausting. Yeah.
right. So life and experience has helped me to sort of evolve and mature through that process. But it wasn't easy. I am not perfect in any way, and I believe that that process, no matter how old you get, it's sort of the idea of lifelong learning, should I
Mhm,
say?
mhm.
It continues throughout your life to become to become who you really are. I believe is a process that continues throughout your whole life. But it was
Okay.
essentially really magnified when I was younger, of course.
Okay. So being diagnosed with cerebral palsy really probably impacted you, I'm assuming in a very negative way. So you probably had some maybe hang-ups and some negative ideas of your own worth and your own value. So I guess one of the first things of that lifelong learning process is to overcome that and to recognize that you do have value, you do have positive value for your own self, for your own good, because you have to feel comfortable in your own skin
Mm.
before again, I'm going to go back to your word, advocate and help others. So how did you become comfortable with you?
Well, I had gotten some counseling when I was much younger, and that helped an awful lot. And
Okay.
so I think we really have to work very hard at getting rid of the stigma of going and seeking counseling. That was one thing that really helped. And the other thing was I explored this idea of being a woman with a physical disability, and I joined groups of other people that were fighting for disability justice and disability rights. And they also helped me to change my negative self-perception into a positive one.
Okay.
And then that in turn helped me to help others. I mean, that's another thing I'd like to add. Um, you, anyone, if you want to feel better, I feel, in my opinion, one way to really feel better is to help someone else.
Okay.
And
S-
so that was also part of the process for me. Mhm.
Okay. So in order to feel better and know a bit more about yourself, who were the people that you were trying to help initially? If that's the healing process.
Good question. Good question. Um, because I have an interesting comparison after that. So, my answer is, who was I helping initially? Well, initially, I began my work as an advocate working in the independent living centers. There are 500 plus independent living centers throughout nationally, and these centers provide information and training about disability rights. And I met up with some of the best advocates in the world who really straightened me out in a lot of ways about my own perceptions, and also challenged me to impart information to others who also had disabilities so that they could live, work, and thrive in their communities. Just like everyone else, not in an institutional framework, but rather in a really integrated, inclusive framework.
Wow.
And so those are the first people. And then after that, I decided that I'd become a New York City public school teacher.
Oh, wow.
And that's where I started to pursue my career as an English language learner, or ESL, English as a second language educator
Okay.
for K to 9. And then most of my career has been for grades 9 through 12. And there were some great experiences there, but I wanted to go further. I wanted to explore adults who spoke English as a second language or as a new language,
Okay.
and see if I could help them. And that all came out of the advocacy because of the need to speak your piece and to articulate your position clearly.
Well, I think part of maturity and growth is holistic in nature, and you're never really growing in one component. You're growing as a person, and so you're overcoming your fears. You yourself are learning to communicate help and assistance and support to others at the same time those words are probably integrating into your own psyche to become a better person yourself. And so when you transitioned into a school teacher, and then you found your passion with those who need to learn the English
Right.
language. So is that specifically now who you're advocating for, is those who don't have English as a primary language? Is that your current advocacy?
Well, yes, it is a primary focus, but I'm also a new entrepreneur with this business of communication coaching. And so I'm sort of evolving and broadening my scope. So
Okay.
now I would honestly say that I am credentialed and qualified to help people that speak English as a second language, but I also have worked with native English speakers who want to just in general improve their presentation skills and communication skills.
So can we talk about that a little bit? Because that is definitely an area of interest for me. Um, a lot of the stuff I'm trying to do is to be on a stage and to be a better speaker and to be a better communicator and really have my own message of journeying. So I recently wrote a book and I'm trying to find it. It's called Walking the Path.
I know,
And
fabulous.
and so there's my new book. And so it does talk about the journey of maturation and growth, specifically in terms of making an impact on others. And so what would you do to help me if I was to come to you for assistance to help me become a better speaker?
Great question.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, great question, guy. Very good. Now, first of all, your experience far exceeds. You offer so much, Keith, and so the first thing I would do is have a conversation with you about what your personal goals are. Why is it that you feel that you want to communicate effectively? First of all, what do you want to talk about? What is your passion? What is your purpose in speaking?
Hmm.
And then what are the obstacles that you feel are preventing you? For example, in the beginning, right before recording, I was teasing you that, oh, I'm so nervous. And you brought out that point. Well, you're a coach. How can you be nervous? But even the most experienced, most proven professional can have anxiety.
Hmm.
So those are the two areas that I need clarification on. What is your purpose and what are your obstacles? And after that, I would design a plan that would meet those needs specifically. For example, they could be articles that you might find of interest that you could read ahead of time, and then we could practice speaking about them and then considering how we would turn that into a presentation, for example. And then you might do a mock presentation with me and take note of what is challenging to you or what you'd like to improve on, and we would discuss that. And then I would give you the opportunity. Pardon me. I would
Thank you.
give you the opportunity to see your recorded self doing this presentation, and we would share feedback on it. And
So
each,
go
I'm
ahead. No,
sorry,
go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm over talking. Sorry, please go
Well,
ahead.
well, I was then curious because you mentioned recording the conversation or recording my talk. Do you coach just virtually or do you coach in person? And so I was just curious.
Yes, I offer a 10-week online program, so I coach virtually.
Okay.
And it's interesting because this came out of the pandemic, actually. And at first, I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to teach or educate or instruct or coach, whatever? How am I going to do this work virtually? That
Yeah.
seems really difficult. But I have to say that coaching virtually has opened the world to me because because I've been able to coach people who live in London. I have friends in Japan. I have clients that are as far away as Turkey, which
Wow.
unfortunately is going through a very bad time right
Right.
now.
Right.
But the world feels initially, when you begin this work as an entrepreneur and as a coach, really, that's what I want to focus on, the coaching piece.
Mhm.
You feel like, oh, the world's so small. I'm in the middle of my living room. But then once you get out there virtually, you see that it's quite large, and you have the opportunity to have a tremendous impact.
Well, then let me ask you this. What as a coach and as a communications coach, what is the most prevalent obstacle or hurdle that you find as a coach that people are facing in order to share their message effectively? What are people
As
facing?
Yeah, this is intriguing to me, because when I first began this business, I thought, oh, well, they're probably going to work on grammar or delivery, and really what it's all about is, as I mentioned before, confidence.
Oh,
Because many of my clients speak better English than even I do at times. They are highly proficient speakers of English, although it may be their second or a third language. Uh, but that confidence, that barrier, that worrying about perception of others, um, the need to stand and deliver and know that what you have to say is worth listening to and will help others, um, and will demonstrate your expertise in ways that people can hear you. That's the biggest, really, believe it or not, it's the lack of confidence that
well,
is the challenge.
confidence doesn't come automatically.
No.
So as a coach, how do you help somebody? And should I use the word feel confident or should I use the word be confident? So I'm not really sure. Should somebody feel confident about what they have to say, or can they be confident in what they're saying? And did that question make sense? Because it made
Yes,
sense
it
to me.
did. Yes, it did. I think you
Okay.
can do both, because, right,
Okay.
because it's sort of an internal experience and an external experience.
Okay.
Much like when I was initially nervous the first few minutes before we started recording, right?
Right.
You have that internal of, oh my gosh, I want to do well. I have a lot to say. I know that I can articulate this information in a way that it'll be received and that it will be useful, right? That's the internal dialogue. And
Hmm.
then to be confident is to know that.
Hmm.
So the first part is feeling, you're feeling those nerves, you're feeling those worries. And then to be confident is to say, you know what? Even though I'm scared, like the saying, do it scared, right? Do it
Really?
scared.
I never
I'm
heard
a,
of that. Maybe I
oh,
need to learn something new.
I'm gonna give it to you as a gift. That is my gift. That's what I say to myself. Do it scared. So the idea of feeling those nerves is something I discuss with my clients. They're there. You can't ignore them. They're there. And then being who you are anyway, right?
Wow.
Sharing your gift anyway. And it does take practice, and it does not happen overnight. And with each new experience, you become better.
So is your coaching simply a one-on-one or do you do group work? And do you have online, like, do you have like a course somewhere online or is it somebody when they sign up, they're actually going to get you in like
Mhm.
live conversation like we're doing now? How does your
Yes.
coaching work?
Okay. So it's a 10-week program
Mhm.
that I designed specifically for my individual clients.
Okay.
But
So
I
you do
have,
only one-on-ones.
well, I do primarily one-on-one
Okay.
coaching, and it's live conversation as we're doing now,
Okay.
with a curriculum that I designed that is specifically for that person. right? Because one person might want to work on their presentation skills, but another person might want to develop more confidence in general,
Mm.
and another person might want to work on their pacing or their accent reduction. So the curriculum is individualized, but that's not to say that I have not successfully taught groups. I had recently taught, well, last summer, I just ended a program with Cornell University's nutrition program.
Wow.
And that was a group of 15 professionals who had to go out in the community and speak with various levels of professionals about the benefits of nutrition. But
Okay.
then I also had an individual client who lived in London, and felt sort of biased against and wanted to increase her confidence when she did her presentations.
So I would probably want to call you more of a confidence builder coach than a communications coach,
I know,
if
right?
the two go hand in hand.
You know, I'm evolving, because while I'm coaching, I'm also learning. And I've been considering that I need to sort of revamp the way that I'm describing myself. Maybe it's not just communication coaching. Maybe it's communication coaching with a dash of life coaching or confidence coaching or something. I'll have to get back to you on that.
I think that
Yeah.
would be I think that would be perfect. A holistic communications coach at the very least. And so, with that, and you've talked about having clients quite literally all over the globe. And so, uh, and you're here in America, yes? And
Yes.
so that puts a particular time crunch on you if you're quite literally, and I have a lot of colleagues over in the UK, and so that's a 5 to 6 hour difference depending on where they are. Then Turkey and then Japan. Japan is what, at least 11, 12, 13. They're like
Yeah.
if we're in bed, they're like halfway through the
They're getting
day.
up.
So how do you make that happen? And how do you make that happen so that it's valuable to you as an individual and coach and valuable to the other person because, and just because of that time difference, because that puts a lot of stress on you, I would imagine. And I could be wrong.
No, no, it's definitely not easy at all. It's not easy initially.
Okay.
But, in the beginning, I said, oh my gosh, what time is it? I'm always constantly consulting the international clock. And,
Yeah.
and sometimes we would say, oh, well, is this time good? Well, that's this time in my area and not your. So it's about negotiating and finding out what works best for myself and for the client. So if it means, for example, my client from Turkey, if it means that I had to get up at 6 so that I could see him at 3 p.m. his time,
Mm.
that was okay with me. That
Okay.
was reasonable.
Okay.
So we try to find that happy medium. I don't mind getting up very early, and I don't mind working in the evening.
Okay.
Uh, would I work at 3 a.m. my time? No, I don't think so.
Okay. So you do
No.
have some parameters, and I think that's appropriate for any coach out
Yes.
there.
Yes.
So, with this coming down to, conclusion, this conversation, I want to ask you that thing, give our audience something empowering to hold on to today. Because a lot of communication is about confidence. A lot of communication is about feeling comfortable and having the confidence to one, just communicate it, and two, having knowing that your message is important. So how would you, what in 30 seconds or less, what would you
Mhm.
say to somebody who really needs to have that confidence today?
Mhm.
What would you say?
I would say that they need to remember that confidence is a journey that continues.
Okay.
It is a goal that happens in many steps. It's not just one goal, it's many little goals that lead up to your ultimate self-acceptance and self-realization, that you have an awful lot to offer, and that you have to be comfortable with asking for help, because even the most professional and proven of us, with years of experience, lack confidence in some area of our lives. So whether it's communication coaching or personal growth, whatever it is that you feel that you need to work on, that it's okay to ask for help, that you should do that.
Lord, that couldn't have been any better said. As a communications coach, that was perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this conversation. And
Thank
hopefully
you.
we'll get to have it again sometime. So let me go ahead and close out. For those of you who are watching, this has been another edition of the Question Guy podcast, and we'll see you next time. Take care.